Thank you. Next speaker is Professor Tatiana Perga. She is senior research of the State Institution of World History of National Academy of Science of Ukraine, DAD Fellow of Heidelberg University. At the moment, she is a leading researcher. She is an author of 140 articles, co-author of 7th book and author of 2 individual books, then focused on different aspects of environmental history. And we heard that Tatiana has 5 articles with the indexation of Scopus and the Web of Science. Yes, please.
Thank you. And I would like to reflect one word to the previous discussion. And I'm historian, and it will be historian perspective. And some time ago, I read an article of some historian who said that if we talk about the violations and the rapes of Ukrainian women by Russian troops, we have to look in the 1945 when the Soviet army deliberated, for example, Germany, and there was the same scenario towards the German woman. That's why this is the continuity, and we have to openly discuss that past of the Soviet army. And when we will discuss and understand this, maybe we will better understand this situation. At least we can explain this situation. But of course, this topic is so fragile that it don't discuss in the current society. And now I would like to present my paper. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for participation for such interesting events. And in conclusion of my presentation, I have some interesting idea. I will say it at the end. And why I devoted my topic to the environmental issues, because as previous researcher says that human rights issues are not on the first place, but in this context, the environment, the violation on environment is on the last place in the in different discussions. But however, the influence on the war on the environment of Ukraine is a very important topic, and some not some but numerous cases of destruction of natural resources of Ukraine and the environment in result of this war is possible to call as ecocide against the Ukrainian people and Ukrainian environment. And in the first part of my presentation, I would like to characterize some consequences of the influence of war on the Ukrainian environment. Then I will present my vision of the future research in this field. And at the third part of my presentation, I will present my vision on the Ukrainian women researchers' perspectives, women in particular, I mean, who work in the field of environmental history. That's why, first of all, I would like to characterize the main environmental consequences of this war. The first is the radiation safety. As a result of Russian aggression against Ukraine, the radiation safety was threatened. And all of 15 Ukrainian reactors on the 4 nuclear power plants are at risk, because as a result of the heating blocks of nuclear power plants, or nuclear waste storage facilities, a new large-scale nuclear disaster may occur. And by this moment, two Ukrainian nuclear power plants were under the occupation. It was Chernobyl and Zaporizhia nuclear power station, and Chernobyl by this moment has been deoccupied, but Zaporizhia nuclear power station is still under the control of Russian troops. And the experience of the occupation of these nuclear power plants demonstrate the danger of spreading the radiation over a large area. I would like to talk to show to give some examples. And for example, in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, the tiers of the Russian tanks and other military ammunition damaged the top layer of the ground. And in result of this, the radiation level in alienation zone increased in 7.5 times. And moreover, these Russian tanks and cars and this equipment which stayed in Chernobyl zone after this begin to move in other regions. It was sent to Belarus, to Russia, and with this military equipment which have very high level of contamination, these radiation elements, they are spread on the vast territories, not only of Ukraine, but on the nearby countries. The next thing is, which is very dangerous, is fires, and particularly fires in the Chernobyl zone. And because there are many fires on the territory of so-called red forest with a very high level of radiation, and in result of these fires, contaminated radiation elements, they release in the atmosphere, and with the air masses, they spread also on the very vast territories. The next thing I would like to underline is that in result of periodically military activities, shelling, there were some situations when the lines of electricity grids were interrupted, especially in Chernobyl, and for 3 days, Chernobyl nuclear power station was without any electricity supply. And of course, they had the how can I say, additional generators, but it was problem with the work of these additional generators because they needed fuel. It was not fuel on this nuclear power station, and the absence of this supply of electricity influenced on some technological process of exploitation of Chernobyl nuclear power station, and in result of this, the Ukraine as well as International Atomic Agency, they had lost their control over the monitoring system of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The same situation was in Zaporizhia, and therefore it was impossible to measure the level of radiation. And on the territory of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and when it was captured by the Russian troops, first of all, during the attack on this Zaporizhia nuclear plant, it was a missile attack, and one missile hit the building near the first working nuclear power unit, and Russian troops, they prohibited the Ukrainian firefighters to stop this fire. And after this station was occupied, in some days there were many unexploded, how can I say, bombs, and the Russian troops began to explode these bombs on the territory of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant near this first unit. And especially my decision to evacuate was just this night on the 4th of March when this situation happened. And I didn't sleep all 24 hours, and I understood that it's a real danger of some nuclear, maybe not catastrophe, but maybe some accident. And as an environment, a specialist in environmental history, and a person who stayed in Kiev, I was 16 years old during Chernobyl nuclear disaster, and I had problems with my blood. That's why I knew and understand this, and that's why I decided to evacuate. The second trend I would like to stress is destruction of ecosystem. And according to our minister, Ukrainian Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources, on the March 20th, during the first month of the war, the military activities covered the territory of Ukraine, 1/3 territory of all Ukrainian natural reserves. And most part of this territory is covered by wetlands, which are protected by the Ramsar Convention on Wetland and international importance. And the movement of heavy equipment, the construction of different fortifications and hostilities damage the ground cover. And this leads to degradation of vegetation and increases wind and water erosion. And about 3 million of hectares of emerald network are threatened with the extinctions. And these territories are the place of habitation of many species of flora and fauna. And one more thing, a number of migratory corridors of many species of birds pass through the territory of military activities. That's why these birds have to change these corridors, and this influence on the breeding of the restriction of the breeding and reproduction of the children, sorry, of these birds and mammals. I have said about the fires, and however, the fires are very dangerous, not only in Chernobyl zone, and the main problem that due to permanent military activities, Ukrainian firefighters, they cannot reach these territories and stop these fires. And around the Kiev is a periodical smoke, and it was maybe 2 weeks, and I called to my son. He said that in the morning when my family stood up, it was a white smoke and smell on Kiev territory, and my son has a baby, little baby, and he said, "Mom, we waited for the half of the day when the smoke would disseminate it, and we go to the street with the baby. Only in the evening when the air begin more cleaner." And it was a problem. The next problem is the destruction of infrastructure. And it is a well-known fact that the attacks by Russian troops of Ukrainian infrastructure and industrial facilities aim to cause the maximum damage to the Ukrainian economy. But it's also have a significant and very negative effect on the environment of Ukraine. And numerous cases of shelling and airstrikes have resulted in the damage of tanks of storage oil, kerosene, propane, diesel fuel, enterprises and warehouses of chemical, pharmaceutical and industrial enterprises, and where many chemical materials were storage. And also many gas and gas pumping stations, the water sanitation stations were destroyed. And the damage of utilities result in pollution of water lower with organic matter, and all this cause the damage of also the atmosphere, the surrounding territories, land. And a very negative influence cause also the detonation of missiles. The detonation missiles and artillery shells oxidize the surrounded soil, wood, turf structures, and forms a numerous of chemical compounds. Carbon monoxides, brown gas, nitrous oxides, nitrogens, and many different, I will not name this, however, many dangerous chemical elements and organic substances. And during the explosions, all substances undergo complete oxidation, and the products of chemical reactions are released into atmosphere. And atmosphere oxides of sulfur and nitrogen can cause acid rains, and which very dangerous not only for the persons, for their breathing system, but also for animals and for flora and fauna. And I also would like to mention the destruction of port infrastructures, particularly along the seaside of Black Sea and Azov Sea, and which leads to water pollution. And by the April on 2022, the total damage caused by Russian troops was more than $600 million. And this is only 3 months of the war. And what will be the damage if the war will last at least some months? And on my opinion, the forthcoming environmental disaster has not only the national character for Ukraine, it has the transboundary character due to transboundary character of environmental problems. And on my opinion, this is the regional environmental disaster. And now I think that Europe doesn't understand this, but in the nearest future, it will be clear also for many European countries. I will not stop on the problems with the food security. These problems are highly debated in many countries, in Germany also. And but I would like to, in this context, say that there is a problem for the future crop for the next year, because due to a contamination of Ukrainian lands now by many missiles, by the rest of missiles, the acidification of land in result of these bombs and so on, the square of the territory where Ukraine seeded the new crops was restricted. And even in this case, no one knows if Ukraine will have possibility to collect these crops in August, for example, because some shelling of Russian bombs on these fields will cause the fires, and Ukraine can lose also these crops. And therefore, as I described the main trends of negative consequences of the war on the Ukrainian environment, now there is a time to demonstrate you my vision of the possible changing of the research in result of the war. And I think that the issues of environmental consequences, the issues of war, the consequences of large-scale war, not restricted military conflict, but a large-scale war on the environment should become a very important and very interesting topic for research. And the next aspect which could be interesting is the migration of population in result of destruction and pollution of the environment. One more interesting and prospective topic is the resilience of the European infrastructure to the possible and military conflicts. One more trend is the transformation of global and regional logistic change in the result of the war. And of course, the topic of the energetic security, and it has not only theoretical dimension, but also practical dimension, particularly for Germany and many European countries. And of course, I think that the problem of food security will also highly debated. And one more problem is the security of nuclear power plants, because existed projects of nuclear power plants not only in Ukraine but also in Europe. They did not take into account the possibility of direct shelling in the result of military operations. Theoretically, nuclear power stations can they are still quite strong, and they should not be damaged in such results, but no one knows what is in practice. And that's why I think that this situation will be in detail explored by specialists. And of course, the problem of ecocide is one of the most important problems. And by this moment, the mechanism of the punishment of the actor country or some group which destroy the intentionally destroy the environment of other countries, such kind of ecocide. This the concept, even the concept of ecocide is not developed, and there is the common use recognition of this concept is absent. And I think that this is a quite perspective, both theoretic and practical dimension of this topic. And the last trend I would like to point that I think that it will be very interesting to investigate the influence of the current transformation in the energetic policy of the European Union, particularly of Germany, and the fulfillment of their obligations in the climate change in result of the war, because the war, this war posed other challenges, and that's why. But however, the international society have to fulfill their obligations. That's why this problem also should be debated. However, these topics, these my ideas, and this is maybe some, on my opinion, these topics will be interesting for the Western researchers, but not, it's a pity, but not for the Ukrainian researchers. And now I would like to go to my final part of my report, the state of environmental history of research in Ukraine and the perspectives. It's my pity, but environmental issues is not interested for the majority of Ukrainian researchers, and especially for academia. Of course, some researchers and some women researchers, they are engaged as an experts, and there are some strong NGOs in Ukraine. However, the deep historical research is a rare case in Ukraine. I was thinking about this and why such situation, and I think that one reason for this is a low priority of environmental policy in Ukraine. And this is really on the maybe last or pre-last position in the priorities of the countries of the Ukrainian internal policy. And that's why the researchers, many researchers see the research in this field as non-perspective. And the majority of my colleagues, historians, they try to be engaged or try to develop more, how can I say, conjuncture topics such as historical policy, memory policy, some Ukrainian topics, the topics where Ukrainian culture, and the topics where they can receive a better or additional financing from the state institutes. There is an ESH, European Society of Environmental History. There is an non-state Society of European Researchers, and I'm a member of this organization, Katerina Karpenko also, and there is also one, the third woman, Anna Linenko, also the member of this organization. And it's my pity. I try to popularize this society, and I try to engage many Ukrainian researchers who work in the field of environmental history, or worked, or can be interested in this topic. I try to interest them to join this society, but they refuse to do this. I don't know why, because the payment for a year is very low, only 10 euros, and the perspectives are great, and it is possible to visit meetings, to share ideas, but I couldn't attract people. And this shows the low interest of Ukrainian researchers and women researchers. And I think that in result of the war, this interest will not increase, despite the perspectives and of different perspectives of research which I had described. And on my opinion, many Ukrainian researchers, especially those who are in safe and in the European Union, they will try to develop topics, more hot topics, deals to the war, to Russia, and so on. And this situation was, and this will continue. And that's why it's a pity, but I don't see the trigger of interest among, and don't predict the trigger of interest of Ukrainian researchers in this field. And but my evaluation of this war, of the position where many Ukrainian researchers appeared, I see the challenges, but I see also the opportunities. My colleagues described the challenges faced by many Ukrainian women researchers abroad, and personally for me, I faced only some challenge. I have not a good computer because I evacuated very quickly with one bag. I didn't take a computer. Some colleagues give me second-hand computer, but I couldn't make even good presentation there. Of course, I will receive computer because I receive the financing of Volkswagen Foundation, and I will buy. And of course, my problems are very miserable comparing to these problems. But I want to focus my attention on problems. I want to focus my attention on possibilities. I think that this situation, when we appear in the European Union and in Germany, is some window of possibilities for the Ukrainian researchers. And my personal position, I don't wait that someone will do for me, that the German state will improve conditions, especially for me, that I'm so poor Ukrainian researcher. My position is proactive. I consider that I have to knock in all doors. I have to participate in many events when I can, to participate in different discussions. And that's why I do this. And this window of possibility, it's open such perspectives. First of all, of course, presenting for the Ukrainian researchers, presenting their research to European researchers, and the German also researchers, to get acquainted with the research and the achievements of the German researchers particularly, and to establish personal and face-to-face contacts, to develop the joint projects, to organize different joint events as this event, to share ideas. That's why my position, we have to do this. Of course, we are very thankful for many German partners who help us, who support to organize, and they are very open to our ideas. But this is our task to do, to knock in many doors. And I have the idea, and I know maybe this is in the schedule, and maybe organizers have this idea. I think that we have to adopt, maybe tomorrow to discuss this, to adopt some statement of history of our group organization, for example, history of women philosophy under the umbrella, and the, for example, the statement of the title of our conference, Voices of Ukrainian Women, and to share this statement among the researchers in Germany, because I think that it's very good to discuss. But if we will develop some document, statement, and share it, maybe this initiative will develop, and we will, many other partners will want to join. And this will be very important deal. And this will be, as well as our participation here and the communication and the joint work, is a win-win situation, both for Ukrainians and for the Western German researchers. And that's why we should receive these benefits, and we should fight for these benefits by this, for example, statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.